Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome back to Code Interpret. And today we're going to look at various different data types in Python. And so, what is the purpose of having data types? Now, the thing is that, for example, if you want to create a program for a calculator, now a calculator requires numbers and symbols, right? Like a symbol to divide, a symbol to multiply, and you would expect a user to enter just numbers, right? So, so the program needs to be defined in such a way that the user input should be a number, right? So similarly, if you have various different programs like a banking teller machine, or a financial software that requires only numbers, so you need to be able to define the kind of data that is being used to process um, those values. So let's look at the first data type, string. Now we've declared a string in a variable called a. And how do you define a string? Anything in between double quotes becomes a string, okay, even if it's a number, right? And if we print a and the type, so I'm going to show you how to determine the data type of a. See, now this is the character that's printed, which is the value of a, and it belongs to a class called str. Str is short for string. Now, the thing is that in Python, everything is an object. We're going to dive deeper in what objects are, but for now, an object is an instance of a class. And a class, this is a class string. So this object that we created belongs to a class called string. So Python knows now that the data type of a is string. Okay, now let's look at integers. So integers are simply numbers without a decimal value. Okay, so it could be 5, print the value b, and let's check the type. So type is a function that tells you the data type of that variable. Okay, so you can also do this, by the way. Type and put in a number. Okay, let's run this. And okay, so it prints 5, and data type, it belongs to a class called integer. So this object holds a value that belongs to a class called integer. Okay, now next. So sometimes we need to know, or we need to define your program in terms of true and false. Okay, this is basically used for decision making. Okay, print. So true and false is always starts with a capital letter. Okay, let's store it inside a variable. And okay, so this is a Boolean. Okay, or just you can call it a bool. All right. Print C and then print the type of C. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, so true was printed there, false was printed because it was stored in C, and it belongs to a type bool. Okay, so in numbers, let's go back to integers. So we have different types of numbers, right? So we have a number, or we have numbers and decimal points as well. Okay, like half, 0.5. So that type of number is called a float. That data type is a float. So for example, D is 1.5, E is, so if you want to take the value of pi, I think it's 3.142. Okay, print D and E, and then type of, let's say, D. Sorry. Okay, see, it's a float. Both of these numbers, D belongs to a class called float. Okay, so it's an object that belongs to a class called float, and that is the data type. Okay, next. So these are some of the mostly used data types, but we also have a data type called lists, and we have dictionaries. Okay, and then we have sets, and we have tuples. Okay, now these four, these are objects. These help you store multiple values. Now, every time, so there's a thing called scalar variables. Okay, say scalar variables. Now, scalar variables are variables that hold a single value. Now, lists, let's say list A. Lists are created by using a square bracket. Okay, and this allows you to save multiple values inside a single variable. Okay, and the data type can be of anything. Like you can also type in text. Yeah, and wait a second. True, false. Okay, so lists is a sequence of ordered data. Okay, now if we print a list and wait, we check the type of list A, and let's run this. Okay, so it returns a list of values that were defined here. So these are scalar. Okay, scalar variables are the variables that hold a single value. When you want to add a collection of items inside a single variable, it's called a list. Okay, so it belongs to a class called list. And how do lists work? I'm gonna make a separate video just for lists. I just wanted to show you what type of data type is list. And similarly, let's look at dictionaries. Okay, so box goes to, now dictionaries helps you map values and items. Okay, here we just have a collection of items, right? But here we can store values in terms of key value pairs. Okay, so every value will be stored inside a key. Will have a key, will be mapped to a key. All right, so let's say name is John, or any name, Ibrahim. Okay, and username, sorry, username is, say, IBR, and then the password is 123. Okay, so if you wanna, so this is mostly used for usernames and passwords and email addresses. We're gonna dive deeper into dictionaries later. I just wanted to show you that this too is a data type. Now let's say box. Let's print the type of box. Okay, there you go. So it's it's enclosed in curly braces. These are called curly braces, and it belongs to a type called dictionary. Okay, a class called dictionary. Let's do sets. So let's talk about sets. Set A. We write sets is a collection of data. Let's take an example. Sets are you enclose the data of sets inside curly braces, and then let's say polo and blue, and then we have an integer and a true value. Okay, now let's print the type of set. This is a data type that belongs to a class called set. Okay, so this is how you write sets. Now, this is different from lists. Lists are enclosed inside square brackets, and this is enclosed inside curly braces. Okay, we're gonna dive deeper in a different video. I'm gonna talk about just exclusively sets. Okay, now tuples. Tuples are immutable, and what that means is that you cannot change it. So sometimes you might wanna create tuples for the kind of data that doesn't have to be changed. Okay, it has to, like the kind of data that needs to remain constant. That's when you use tuples. Okay, so let's say this is a collection of temperature. Okay, type tuple A. Okay, so it belongs to a class called tuple. Okay, so we're done with the different types of data types, and we're gonna dive deeper into each one of these in a separate video. But I just wanted to summarize some of the most common data types that we use while creating a program. Okay, all right. Thank you.